All right, we are live. It's a Sunday night, another Yeti Live, and I am your host, Jimmy Gasparo from Comic Book Yeti, and I am here with writer Grant DeArmitt, and we are going to talk all about uh, RATATOSK, which is currently on Kickstarter. And we're going to talk all about the project, all about the rest of the creative team, and whatever else comes up about comics. But Grant, thank you for joining me tonight for a Yeti Live event.
Oh my gosh,
How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. So let's just dig right in. Let's start right off the bat. Ratatosk. Am I saying that right?
Absolutely are.
Okay, good. I should have asked that beforehand, but
Oh,
it's a
journey we're taking together.
yeah, it is. We're and hopefully folks are joining us. I always find it difficult when I'm like trying to do this and then also like retweet and share like the event at the same time, but usually Matt from Comic Book Yeti or Byron helps me out with that as well. So folks know that we're live on the Comic Book Yeti Twitter and the YouTube page. So all right, Ratatosk. So tell me, what is it about first and foremost? I mean, I read what was on Kickstarter. It sounds like a mix of an investigative kind of mystery and maybe some folk horror. So you take it from there.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Ratatosk is about Cassie O'Bear. She is a missing persons expert that operates. She's not a law enforcement. She's not in law enforcement. She's an amateur, but she is a missing persons expert driven by the loss of her brother years and years ago. And she's she's seen it all. Every kind of missing persons case until she gets to this weird little town called Sturridge, Vermont, and comes across the case of a missing Norse pagan. And that's strange enough, but what's even weirder and what kind of like really gets her into the mystery is that his disappearance is pretty similar to the disappearance of some teens from the 90s who also got really into Norse mythology right before they disappeared. So that's the long answer.
Okay.
But if I was like screaming this to you as I was getting off an elevator, I would just say that Ratatosk is Viking flavored True Detective.
Oh, all right. That boils it down.
Right?
Yeah. I was well, I still am. I mean, a fan of the TV show Supernatural. My brother and I, Bobby, who I'll give a shout out to, he's the Cryptid Creator Corner, the podcast #1 fan. He listens to all the episodes, but we watched every episode together. And so anytime that anything even remotely comes close to reminding me of like one of their mystery of the week episodes, like Norse mythology, missing person, I'm all over it. I'm like, yes, I want to know what this is. I'm all about it. If it scratches that kind of itch for a mix of like a mystery and the possibility of something paranormal or supernatural, I'm excited about it, and I want to dig in, and I want to know more.
That is, I mean, that's exactly what we're going for. You are the target audience.
So I wanted to ask you though, before I want to talk about the rest of the creative team, certainly. But I'm familiar with some of your other work. I think I have my copy of The Hunt for the Solivar right here that you did with the tremendous Lane Lloyd. So is there, like I like to ask folks, is there like a through line? Is there like stuff that you gravitate towards? Is there a thing that like you have in your work that you're like, oh, this is what connects it? Or is it just, I had an idea, this struck my fancy, or somebody came to me with something?
Yeah. Something that I don't know. I think that I've seen like come up in my projects more than once is like different angles on kind of established tropes. So with Solivore is a great place to start. Lane and I wanted to do a monster, and so the monster that we came up with was essentially a vampire on a galactic scale. Actually, our pitch for that is what if Jack Kirby created Dracula? So you kind of like
That's a good pitch.
uh, you kind of take these things that are like that. You have like a trying to think of how to say it. You take these things that people are really familiar with and kind of like have a language of their own that people speak. And finding new ways to kind of twist that is just it's just really really fun for me. And I try to write the things that are the most fun, and that's definitely something I see in a couple things that I write. The Ratatosk is definitely an example. Norse mythology has it's got such an influence on swords and sorcery and fantasy. So you think of it in these like everybody's in armor kind of ways. And I wanted to take different elements and work them into kind of a different genre than the typical take on Norse mythology.
Was Norse mythology, like in general, just something you had like an interest in before this, or is it
Oh
just
yeah.
kind? Oh, okay. I didn't
Oh
know if
yeah.
it was just like a way to work something, into this story, and you're like, oh, I'll pick Norse mythology rather than Celtic or something else. You had an interest before this story idea came along.
Definitely. Although it was, I guess yes and no is the answer to that, because even though I did have a huge interest in Norse mythology, I went to Reykjavik a couple years ago and I was like, I don't know, just freaking out about the mythic feel of that place. Um, uh, I did consider just a bunch of different mythologies for Ratatosk when Armando and I got started on this. We just both wanted to create something very similar to Krampus. We both love that movie,
Okay.
character, that
Right.
sort of like folk horror mascot kind of thing.
Sure.
And so I just went looking in a bunch of different mythologies, and there was Ratatosk. Well, there was Ratatosker. There's an R at the end of the name of the mythic figure that we base this story off of. And there is a reason we take it off, but I can't tell you that right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to, I guess, read on to find out.
It's
uh,
yeah, okay.
no, well, so since you mentioned Armando, so the artist on the project with you, Armando Zanker, and I'll talk about the rest of the creative team, but it's Shan Benian coloring, and Lucas Gattani, who's been mentioned on the podcast, and I'm sure other times I've talked about, just a tremendous letterer. So,
Phenomenal.
how did you and Armando though connect and start working on this story? It's like, had you wanted to collaborate on something? Did you reach out to him? Did he reach out to you?
Um, it was a Twitter thing. Same way Lane and I connected. But I tweeted something out basically saying, would anybody be interested in doing kind of a creepy comic? And by creepy, I don't just mean spooky, but like there was literally a comic in the I think 50s to like the 80s, I want to say, called Creepy. It was by Warren Publishing, and it was just black and white anthology horror stories. And Armando was a big fan of that, and so responded to that tweet, and we just kind of started talking. Came up with a pitch for an anthology that was kind of the bare bones of Ratatosk. And then when that anthology did not end up working out, we started building the series, started building it as a series.
Oh, that's awesome. So this originally, the original idea was for a pitch for an anthology.
Yeah.
And so
8-page
like,
story.
okay. And then when that didn't happen, you decided to take the bones of that and then turn it into this.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love being able to pivot and still, work on something, like whether or not the anthology just fell through or was a rejection or whatever the situation is, just being able to take it and maneuver it into something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't always do that, but it's nice when you have these ideas and have the
Oh, yeah.
ability to work on it and create something. I mean, ultimately, this is going to be a 3-issue series. Is that the plan?
Yep. 3 issues, 24 pages each. So just
fantastic. And I read from the campaign page and the preview that is in it, which is phenomenal. So I love the preview of it. But
aren't those colors great? I mean,
it just looks spooky, even though I mean one of the pages is there's like all these squirrels, and I'm like, what is going on here? And I guess I read in what is it Armando's like bio that's in the page that somebody told him that idea at a dinner party.
Yeah, I might be misquoting the story, but I guess he was at a dinner party and someone was telling him about being surrounded by like a pack of squirrels and how terrifying it was. And then like I don't know how soon after, but like the idea for RATATOSK came about. And so yeah, it was kind of like written in the stars sort of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to, you think of squirrels like, furry woodland creatures,
Oh, they're so cute.
Yeah. But they you get that lighting right, and somewhat ominous being surrounded by so many of them.
Oh yeah.
I also think if you ever watch the show Scrubs, I think it was the janitor had a stuffed squirrel army, which always kind of creeped me out.
Oh man, wait, what's the term for that when you stuff animals?
Like taxidermy.
Taxidermy, yeah. That there's always something just so like weird about that. I don't know, but like really off-putting. Especially have you looked at the pictures of bad taxidermy?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's some fun.
I have. I think there's a. I know I'm going to get the details wrong, but I think there is a fairly famous. I don't know if it's some royal or some rich person. Like the first time, like someone brought a lion and they didn't really know what it looked like, so when they put it, like tried to get it back together, it looks totally goofy.
Yeah,
it looks like.
Oh, I know exactly.
I'm sure that's. I'm sure that's in the bad taxidermy.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so, how did the rest of to get back to RATATOSK?
Yeah,
before we go on a tangent of bad taxidermy. So, how did the rest of the creative team come together? Was it similar through Twitter?
Well, so once Armando and I kind of committed to it, I researched some options for colorists, and it was Armando was basically like, we should go with Shan, because they have this like painterly style, is I think how Armando put it.
Okay.
You'd have to ask him exactly what that means, because like as someone who's not great with visuals, I can't exactly describe it, but it's definitely, to my mind, just some of the best mood setting I've ever seen with colors. So once we got them on the project and I got those first couple pages back, it was like, this was exactly the person for this. But yeah, I reached out. I think I just sent them an email.
Okay.
So I got in touch with Shan, and then same with Lucas. Just reached out. Yeah, I don't think that was a Twitter thing. I think I just, emailed I mean, I've been following him on Twitter, and that's how I got his information. But yeah, I kind of, I mean, you go on Lucas's profile and see the work he's done for the people that he's done it for, and I don't know, I was kind of expecting a no, I'm too busy, I'm too important, but we got him, and like, you look at the font that he created for the squirrels, for the poetry that starts the story that's on
Yeah, it's
Kickstarter page.
great.
Oh man, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it ties into everything else. It is like almost runic. It's
Uh-huh.
just, yeah, it's very well done. Well, so in terms of the story though, um, I'm always amazed because I always loved growing up. I as a kid I was a big fan of the Hardy Boys like case file books,
Oh, sure.
and I've always been a huge fan of like those types of shorter, digestible, kind of mysteries. But I could never fathom like tackling one, myself. I mean, I could think, horror, science fiction, fantasy, in terms of like genre. There's things I want to write and areas I want to work in, but to like a really solid like mystery kind of intimidates me. Do you have anything you do in terms of like your approach, because you are kind of telling like a horror story, but I mean, this is a mystery. This is someone investigating. No matter where it leads, it starts out with them investigating, a good old fashioned disappearance. So do you do anything to like approach that differently in terms of like something like the hunt for the Solivar, or were you intimidated by tackling that, or is this something you had wanted to write and thought you had a solid idea for?
That's a great question. I mean, I will definitely say that I don't think when we were first starting this idea, I don't think I was thinking this is going to be a mystery story, as in like the mystery is going to be the through line, the thing that kind of brings it all together. Um, because like I said, we were just talking about like doing a creepy monster story.
Right.
And so it was almost like the mystery kind of came later. And I think that then was just a really slow progression of, sending drafts of scripts to people, and kind of getting their thoughts on like what's important, what questions do they want answered, and then kind of going back and writing and like rewriting the mystery based on what moves people. I think Agatha Christie, when she would write mysteries, she would write them without knowing who the murderer was. Well, maybe not all of them. I might be wrong there, but at least some of them she would write not knowing who the murderer was until the end, and then it would kind of like click. And after that, she would come back and like not fluff up. That's so. She would flesh out
Yeah.
the bits of the story where you realize
Okay.
this person is more likely to have done it, kind of, you know what I mean? And then
Hmm.
so it was almost like she was working forwards and then backwards. And that was a kind of similar thing here.
Okay.
I don't know though. Yeah, people that write really good mysteries. I mean, I guess it's kind of a magic act, right? Because like magic is all about getting somebody to look in the direction you want them to look, while something else is going on in the other hand, or something like that.
Right.
And I don't know, people that are really talented in doing that in book form is phenomenal. So yeah. Wow. I guess the answer to your question is yes. I am incredibly intimidated by mysteries, and the more I talk about them, the more intimidated I become.
Well, it's just something I always like think about because, to I guess that makes sense though, to kind of write it through to get to the end and then go back and continue to rework some of it, not necessarily like a typical like scripting and revising and drafting process, but to kind of flesh out those parts that you know solidify the mystery without making it too obvious.
Yeah.
Was there any, I always think in terms of also stories like this, folk horror, that aspect of it too, in terms of, the setting. Think of like writers like, Stephen King setting everything in Maine and other, writers who have like particular settings. Was there any reason in particular that you chose Vermont? And I don't know, is Sturridge an actual town or is that the fictional town of Sturridge, Vermont?
It is based on a real town called Stowe. But it is, yeah, Sturridge is fictional. So I originally thought that this was going to be set in the Pacific Northwest. I've never been to the Pacific Northwest, but I have watched Twin Peaks many, many times.
Okay.
And so, there's like, I don't know, there's like such good, it feels spooky and like the trees are really big and it felt very appropriate. But my partner Kelsey is from Vermont, and we were up there 2.5 years ago when all of this was when we were kind of like formulating RATATOSK. And I don't know, it was one of those things again that just like kind of clicked. You know what I mean? It just it made a little bit more sense to be out here, or to be out there. And then as it, it's like, it's one of those things where like when you're looking for something, and you find the way to look for it, then everything starts like clicking into place. When I realized it was going to be set in Vermont, I just happened to come across this like book of unexplained mysteries from Vermont and like some cryptids from Vermont. Cryptids are very important to the story.
Oh, all right.
Oh yeah. Comic book Eddie.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just started hearing more stories about people disappearing in Vermont, and I was like, oh yeah, well that makes sense. That's what I was going for this entire time.
Nice. Yeah, and glad to hear that cryptids are important to the story. So that's always a nice tie-in with Comic Book Yeti. And one of the things I like to do with the Cryptid Creator Corner is, especially the first time I'm talking to somebody in the podcast or one of these live events, is to talk about kind of how you got your start in terms of wanting to do anything creative, be a writer, and why comics in particular. So what was it that kind of got you? Well, let's start here. Have you always been a fan of comics? Did you come to it late, or what was kind of your relationship to the medium?
Yeah, I grew up in a very small town in Pennsylvania where there was no comic book community whatsoever. I loved Calvin and Hobbes growing up. So, there was that appreciation for sequential storytelling, sequential art storytelling. But I didn't really get into comics, as in start going to stores and stuff, until college. That said, in high school, I discovered Hellboy, just at a Barnes and Noble, and I fell so hard in love. I mean, it was the Conqueror worm. So, like all these elements of like pulp that were worked in, and that Mignola aesthetic, the big like suits of armor that look ancient and futuristic at the same time. I don't know. I fell in love with that. So, haven't always been a comics person, as in like I grew up reading them regularly.
Sure.
But definitely had like an appreciation for them.
There's no prerequisite. I just like to know how you found your way. It's like, we don't kick you off. I mean, I read very few comics as a kid, and wasn't until much later that I kind of really got into reading comics. So yeah, there's no right answers here, Grant. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah. Good, great. Because I was, man, I was like,
no.
getting
No,
the little what's that thing, the hook.
we don't gatekeep. We don't. There's no special test you have to pass. I
Yeah,
just like to know, like, how'd you could have just picked up a comic yesterday and said, I think I could write one of these, and that's fine too.
that's true. That's true. Honestly, there's probably some worth in that. Like people just like, I don't know, discovering a different aspect of comics, kind of outside of what everybody's talking about in the community right now, might come up with something like really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so started reading comics really regularly in college. Scott Snyder's Batman run was great.
Yeah,
Uh,
Snyder and Capullo, that Court of Owls. That's good stuff.
yeah, yeah. Hey, that's a great. So that story hinges on a mystery, uh, and I think by the end you realize all the clues that have been. I just kind of what we were talking about earlier. That is a
Yeah.
really good example of something that like dripped clues your way very intentionally, but did it in a way that you weren't really. I don't know. I definitely didn't see the end of that story coming.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't either.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but as far as like writing, yeah, I've always wanted to write for forever. I mean, I when I was a kid, I would keep these notebooks of ideas, and I think they go back to like second grade. So
Oh man, that
yeah,
you still have them all?
my mom probably does. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever
Inside.
go back and look and be like, what did I think was a great idea in like fourth
Yeah,
grade?
actually, yes. So I so okay. I remember having this idea for well, okay, so my dad took me to see Ocean's 11 when I was really young. Or maybe it was Ocean's 12. The Ocean's movies.
Sure.
And I loved it. You know what I mean? Like the heist uh
Yeah.
heist stories just like they excited me so much. Still do. I love heist stories. And so little me came up with this idea for like an Oceans kind of thing called Gideon's Men, and it was like a team of like um, it was a team of thieves, but I remember they were like older, and so a little bit like more experienced, more grizzled, and I thought, wow, like, oh man, I bet you I've thought this for years, like, oh, I bet you there's still some worth. Maybe I should go revisit that thing that I came up with in fourth grade. And I went back to my notebook. Dude, I thought that katanas could be useful in heisting a bank.
Yeah, they are.
So yeah,
You were right. I think you were right.
I look back at it and it was so bad. I mean, clearly written by just like a person who doesn't understand how I didn't understand how money works. So like, trying to come up with a heist story was folly. But yeah, I have seen a couple of them, and most of them are quite embarrassing.
No, I think that's great. Work it in.
Yeah, right.
Look, your next comic. It's a
Yeah.
heist comic.
Uh-huh.
Somebody has a katana.
Somebody's got a
You can figure it out from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, Gideon's Men is a pretty good title. You know,
Thanks. Thank you.
it's like Ocean's 11 meets The Expendables, maybe.
Ooh,
So we have a bunch,
okay,
right? Come
yeah.
on,
Hey, there
we
you
can do
go.
this.
Are we gonna do this together?
We might.
No. It feels like something's happening here.
We have a comment from D-Nick7. Katanas are essential. Thank
Katanas
you.
are essential. Yeah, absolutely. For so much heisting, cooking shows. Now there's a comic I would read the hell out of. Someone that used like ancient weaponry to cook. I'm so in.
Yeah. I would love it. I like cooking comics.
Yeah, there should be more of those.
I agree.
Especially since, I mean, like a good drawing of food is
Yep.
an art form in itself.
Yeah, that would be a good segue to talk about comics from the kitchen is on Zoop, and I have a 5-page story in that with James Greatorex, phenomenal artist who I met at my local comic shop, who drew a plate of meatballs like you wouldn't believe.
That's awesome.
So yeah, um,
That's great.
very excited about it. So one of the things I also wanted to talk about in terms of Ratatosk is I know that Armando did the cover A, and you revealed cover B by another tremendous artist, Rio Burton.
Yep, our Blair Witch homage.
Yeah, excellent cover. And there's I don't know if you wanted to now talk about there's a cover C as well.
There is. I a couple years ago picked up the comic Finger Guns at Vault Comics. It's such a good book, and the artist is Val Halverson, and so I reached out to him to do this third variant cover. And do we have it here? Maybe.
Yeah, I think we do. Val Halverson and Justin Richards did Finger Guns, which is an excellent comic.
Yeah.
If I can just do this and share.
There we go.
There it is. That's the Val Halverson's Ratatosk cover. That's the cover C. And you're going to be able to get that through the Kickstarter campaign.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love how the creature in it is so oversized, and that light source. That is I love the look of that cover. That would be the one I think. I don't know. It's a tough call. They're all three are really, really good, but I really am a big fan of Val's work. So.
Oh yeah, huge fan as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they I mean, just did a phenomenal job.
And what I like about all of these covers, they just explain so well exactly what you're going to be getting into with the story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like this, like you can tell it's a mystery folk horror with one glance. The flashlight is like, it's the investigation element, the thing behind this sort of like eldritch presence kind of stalking her. I mean,
right.
I don't know. That's better than anything that would be on the back of the book explaining what the story is.
Oh yeah, and like the roots are kind of like trees or branches coming up above, gives it like a very we've discovered something in the woods, kind of feel to it. I like the green at the bottom. It's eerie. And I really like the design of the title, the Ratatosk. I don't know if Val did that or if that was designed by somebody else, but that Ratatosk is great.
Yeah, that was Chris at Band of Bards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, really great title design. Really like that too.
Yeah. It's same deal. I don't know. It tells you exactly what you're going to be getting when you get the you know what I mean?
All right. Well, yeah, that's I really appreciate you allowing us to be able to kind of show the cover C for this on this live stream. This is fantastic. And
thanks for showing it. Yeah.
I'm and especially because I was such a am such a huge fan of Finger Guns. When that came out, I loved that book that Vault put out. I have all the issues of it, and I think I have number 1 that's signed by both Justin and Val. And I actually think it was part of the auction they did, like when the pandemic first hit, there was a lot of creators were auctioning different items,
right? Okay. Yeah.
And the money was kind of, I don't know if it was the Bink Foundation who was doing it, but I actually think I beat Justin's mother out at the auction.
Hey. That is awesome.
I'm sure he got her a signed cover.
maybe not. You don't know.
I don't.
Ruin that for her.
But yeah, just a phenomenal Val Halverson cover. That's great. This is the cover C.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's after watching this is going to go to the Kickstarter, and I think there are 12 days left.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
we're getting close.
Well, I'm sure you'll get a big push at the end. But yeah, it's I mean, how have you found in terms of running a Kickstarter? I mean,
Hmm.
because Hunt for the Solivar was that a Kickstarter?
It was, and I definitely was like, plugging it a lot, but it was Lane that was actually like running the page. So
Okay.
they they um they put together all of the materials for Kickstarter and
Okay.
that. So this is the first time that I'm like the lead on it,
Right.
and I'm finding it, well, first of all, it is outrageously humbling, in a good way. You are just like asking thousands of people for help. You know what I mean? Which is comics is comics is something you never do alone ever.
Right.
But crowdfunding a comic, you really can't do alone. You know what I mean? That is front and center.
Right.
Um, uh, so humbling. I mean, obviously it's definitely a stressful experience. Knowing, um, or trying to figure out where to push, like who to reach out to, uh, uh, in terms of getting eyes on the project. I am definitely really surprised by this campaign. I just like all of okay, when we were doing Solivore, a lot of the stuff that we were reading about, like best Kickstarter advice, uh,
Right.
was true. Like, tweet at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, you'll get a couple, or you'll get a decent response. This one, I found the exact opposite to be true. Like all of the advice I feel like that I had read beforehand, um, uh, is not working, and then sometimes I'll just like do something because it feels right, and then it gets a big response. So it's I don't know. I guess it just I'm sure every Kickstarter creator is feeling this right now, but it feels like we're maybe on like the second like kind of wave, if that makes sense, of Kickstarter.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
it feels like things are changing, is what I'm trying to say.
right. No, I get that. I mean, I haven't run a Kickstarter campaign, but and I came fairly late to Kickstarter. I mean, I don't think I backed my first campaign until the the early days of the pandemic. So about 3 years ago was when I kind of discovered Kickstarter, and but I found a ton of projects on there in the 3 years that have just been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And just some of the comics that I've like absolutely loved. I mean, I recently recorded a podcast episode for the Creative Corner that's going to come out this week with Grant Stoy, and
You really?
Side Quest has been like
Oh, okay.
that's
Side quest too. Yeah,
yeah, Side Quest has been like a phenomenal comic, and
yeah,
you know yeah, there's just been some amazing stuff on it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I've watched different campaigns, and I'm somewhat mystified by things that don't seem to be doing better, and than other ones that have like well exceeded their goal.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the magic sauce is.
yeah.
I'm
Same.
just always it just seems like a very stressful process, and having to reach out to folks, and the press side of it, and not knowing what like this will work or social media.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it just seems like a lot. I commend anybody that is going to, do it and run a crowdfunding campaign, but you wrote a story and you want to get it out there and you want people to see it. And, certainly this weekend in particular with the, hashtag comics broke me trending on
yeah, oh
Twitter, and
gosh, yeah,
just seeing some of the stories of creators, artists in particular, who have really struggled.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what the answers are for this industry, and it's one that I love.
yeah,
Um, I just try and do my part and support the folks that I really like, who are writing and drawing and making lettering and coloring the things that I enjoy, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's like that's what you can do. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I one thing that does, like, I don't know, give me hope is that it does seem like, um, with Kickstarter, it does seem like there's more. Um, I don't know. It feels like Kickstarter is opening doors for people. You know what I mean? Just like,
Mm-hmm.
people that would not otherwise get stuff published, at like traditional publishers, or just like, just projects that are a little bit weirder, or I don't know, have something different. And hopefully, I don't know, hopefully that'll, I don't know, that'll turn into something that does allow people to make to actually make a living on this business. And
Right.
hopefully major publishers see that and are kind of forced to change their ways and act accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the hope anyway. But
Yeah, right.
it does
Yeah,
seem
but
like
yeah,
there's a long road, unfortunately, to get there.
oh,
But
absolutely. Yeah.
well, to talk more, to turn back to Ratatosk, and in terms of it being on Kickstarter, it is a project we love. I saw it got that badge, so
Yes.
that's good. That'll hopefully bring people, to the project. Yeah. So, in terms of like the status of it, like is it in a place where like you've written the script and you've done a couple of the pages for the Kickstarter campaign, and how is the you talked a little bit about your and Armando working together, and like some of the ideas you've come up with. How was the collaboration with everybody working together? Was it kind of an easy fit?
uh Absolutely an easy fit and a great learning experience. So I kind of ran point on just like, communication and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Shan and Armando and Lucas were so incredibly understanding. I mean, first of all, my emails are kind of loquacious, so they just dealt with that. Uh,
I like how you put that. They dealt with that.
yeah. But then, I mean, just like uh, I learned so much about just like what, the other roles, that I don't do in comics need to succeed,
Right.
and like how they need to communicate with each other. So it was so cool hearing all of that, and that's like, that's I hope to do comics for a long, long time, and like these are things that I will continue to use for the rest of my life. So I'm so incredibly grateful to the team for doing that. Um, and yeah, they are all such incredibly professional people, who are really excited about this kind of thing, not just folk horror comics, but the, um, indie side of the industry. Um, so yeah, it was a very easy fit. And to answer your earlier question, um, the story is done, as in the first draft of it, all 3 issues is
Oh
done.
wow.
Um, it has not been edited in full. Part of it has been edited, by an incredible editor, named Jasmine Walls. Um, uh, but once the Kickstarter's over and once we know more, about how we're going to continue with the project, it will go back to her,
Okay.
and get like another pass, an editorial pass.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've familiar with some of Jasmine Wall's work as an editor,
Yeah.
and I'm just trying to recall there were a couple of projects in particular I was thinking of, but yeah, another great addition to the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, I mean, anything else in terms of that you're working on or have coming up, or is it Ratatosk is the focus now? Are you someone that like does one project at a time, or do you kind of always have a couple irons in the fire?
I do like to have irons in the fire, but Ratatosk is the only iron right now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just with it being like the first Kickstarter that I'm running, um, uh, I haven't really had the brain space to think of other to work on other stuff. But I'm always writing for Popverse. Uh, I've been working with them for a while now. So that's kind of still cooking.
Right.
But then yeah, there are other projects that I'm talking to people about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that are I'm very excited to be able to focus on them. You know what I mean? To be able to not think about
Yeah.
this aspect of it anymore. Of,
In terms of your work for Popverse, is it tough to how do you kind of juggle like working on the I guess let's call Ratatas like a passion project, or the your focus, and like with the Kickstarter, and then I mean because you're, I guess I would assume, freelance with Popverse, right?
mm-hmm. Yep.
Is it tough to kind of like balance all those things? Like, are you good with time management?
No. It is tough. Yeah, it definitely is. Especially since, like I said earlier, I like writing the thing that is fun, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm very much the things I enjoy. I like get really, really into them. It's why I can't play too many video games, because like I will just lose an entire day to a video game. So it is tough, especially when time management. I mean, it is tough, especially when one project is like really fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not to say that it's always the fiction stuff that is more fun than the journalistic stuff that I do, because honestly, I've had a phenomenal time writing for them. Um, uh, so yeah, I think I'm just naturally a person that is bad with when I like a project more. I just like want to just focus on that one.
Well, I don't think that's unfamiliar. I think you're probably in some good company with that.
Fun. Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I read a lot of pop versus stuff. I really like kind of, I mean, because how they haven't been around too long, right? In terms of like their
No.
current iteration, right?
Yeah, they celebrated their 1 year anniversary.
Okay.
I think 2 weeks ago. I want to say.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, they are.
Yeah.
But they've got people that have been working in comics journalism since, I don't know, the 1800s.
I don't know if it's that long, but
Uh,
I won't tell. I won't tell anyone you said that. uh, Wait, D Nix 7 commented again. Gideon's men, we need it.
Hey, all right. Well, okay.
I hear D Nix 7 also asks, substitute a board game for video games. What's your favorite board game? Do you play
Favorite.
board games, Grant? You a
I need to.
tabletop guy?
Well, I mean, definitely D&D. Okay, so this is the best answer I can come up with for that question.
Okay.
Because I don't play a ton of board games. Card games, yeah. But a buddy of mine recently told me about the game Gloomhaven. We were at a bar and he was just pitching me on it, and it sounds so exciting. So I'm really, really excited to get into that.
Okay.
It's a TTRPG with like this real weird dark fantasy world that sounds so cool. But I'm trying to think of like other board games.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I don't.
Can't think.
I don't think I've played Gloomhaven. I'll have to check that one out.
I will let you know how it is.
Yeah.
It sounds really cool.
Yeah, I'm a big board game fan. So, and
Yeah. What do you like to play?
there's lots of stuff, but I really like the Unmatched games,
Okay.
which are it's like a I think Restoration Games makes it, and they're different sets, and they're like pop culture or like folk tale or literary characters,
Okay.
and it comes with a board and a little tiny miniature character and a set of cards, and basically you use the cards, you move your little player around on the board and then use the cards to attack the other player just to try and defeat them. So there's a couple of like Marvel sets, there's like a Hell's Kitchen set, but they also have Cobble and Fog, which has Sherlock Holmes, Jekyll and Hyde, Dracula.
Hey, there you go.
Somebody else. They have some like mythical characters as well. They have a Bigfoot one and Little Red Riding Hood.
Okay.
They have Robin Hood, and so basically you can use them all interchangeably. So you can have Ghost Rider fight Dracula. Sounds
amazing.
You can have Sherlock Holmes fight. Well, actually, one time my friend Dan and my wife and we played, and I think I was Sherlock Holmes, my wife was Elektra, and Dan was the raptors from Jurassic Park.
Now that is a love triangle I am so here for.
Yeah. So that's a fun one.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Unmatched, you said.
Unmatched. That's a lot of That's a good one. That's a lot of fun. And then card games. I mean, I like card based games, not necessarily like a deck of 52 cards, but there's a game called
card based games. That's what I meant. Yeah.
But there's a game called Love Letter, which it's like the cards have like a countess and a prince and a king and a baron, and every time you pick up, when it's your turn, you pick up a card. So you start off with a card. You have 2 cards in your hand. You have to discard one and play whatever the card you keep, whatever the card you discard says. And the goal is to try and like get your other teammates out, or the other people you're playing with out. It's like a very quick based card game with like a deck of 18 cards, but they have a Star Wars based one called Jabba's Palace, which is
cool.
A lot of fun. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. So now we ventured into board game podcast. But thanks, DNick7. Thanks for watching. And I always like to find out what folks are interested in other than comics.
Mm-hmm.
Is it video games? Do you have other hobbies or things that you like to do?
Yeah. So not so much video games, although I did get a Switch for Christmas last year. So I'm getting into video games a little bit. I'm actually, right now I'm super into Breath of the Wild, which is so good. But then I got this like Sherlock Holmes bundle of games, and they're really fun. I don't know the like studio, or I can't think of who makes them, but these one's called Sherlock Holmes Crime and Punishments, and it's a blast because like you can solve the mystery, but you can make connections, but you don't know that you're making the right connections until, I presume, the end of the game. I'm not 100% sure, but then like at the end of each mystery, there's like a moral quandary that you have to like answer. So this isn't an example, but it would be like you solve a murder, right? And then it turns out that maybe the murder was actually self-defense. And so there's kind of like do you report this guy to the cops? Because like maybe he was actually in the right, and like this person you thought was the victim was actually like a jerk and like super abusive or whatever. So it's like this cool, like you kind of, I don't know, it's fun.
Wait, those are for the Switch?
Yeah.
Well, wow.
At least they are now. I don't know if they were
Okay,
originally made for the Switch. Um,
that's pretty cool.
so that's been fun. But then what else am I into? I do play D&D. Not as often as I like, but I love D&D.
Yep, me too.
Um, I I mean, how do you find the time? You know what I mean?
It's impossible.
It
It's
really is.
impossible. There's like five of us, and we did good for a while. We
Okay.
started in and we started July 1st of 2017. I'd never played before,
Okay.
and a group of us decided we played like a Game of Thrones board game that lasted like 6 or 7 hours, and it was fun, but it was a long time. And then that kind of turned into it. Anyone ever wanted to play D&D, and somebody had played before. He was decided to be the DM, and none of the other guys had like ever really played. And so we started trying to play once a month. We did good for the first like 4 years, but then like the past year or two, it's just
4
been
years. That's really impressive, though. Truly.
yeah. I mean, we missed a couple of sessions, but I think since July 1st of 2017, which was the first night we played, I think we've had like 44 sessions.
Okay. Gotcha.
So basically, but it's just it's tough. It's tough to get like five of us together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It really is.
But
Yeah.
when we've had what we have played has been like a ton of fun, because I had always wanted to play, but never had like a group or folks that were into it, and so finding it later in life has still been very, very enjoyable.
Yeah. Agreed, hands down. And then I don't know. I do love like mystery stuff. So I like listening to a couple of true crime podcasts. Just the really good ones, the ones that kind of like don't make heroes out of serial killers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
that's not good.
What else do I like? I don't know. I always go blank on questions like these.
No, that's fine. You don't have to like anything else. It's okay.
Yep, that's it. That's all I like.
All I like. All right. Breath of the Wild, some Sherlock Holmes stuff.
That's it.
That's the top, and D&D. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's my entire Tinder profile.
What do you play as in D&D?
I played a couple different things. Right now, I am playing a spooky halfling bard.
Okay, spooky halfling bard. All right,
halfling bard called Arl Stein.
Okay, that's almost too clever.
Dumb. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. And our campaign is Curse of Strahd right now.
Okay.
Which is, oh man, it's so fun. But I've played as well. Oh man, the last time I played, or maybe the time before that, my DM allowed. I can't remember the 5e name for them, but they're robots. Like it's like you can play as a robot race. And I played as a robot named Von Clank. And oh man, that was so much fun. And I died. Like like my character actually died in the game.
Oh no.
That was the only time that's happened to me.
Oh.
It was a tragedy because I loved playing as a robot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's upsetting.
Yeah.
That's upsetting.
Yeah, it was a bummer. How about you? What do you play as?
I am a halfling rogue.
Nice. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. My name is Drake Blackguard.
Okay.
But about I think like halfway or 3/4 of the way through our first year playing, my character revealed that he had a totally different name and I had an accent. So then, which I thought was like a really great idea, but then like every time my character came into a certain scenario, I like had to do my terrible Irish accent. Yeah, so I was Drake Blackguard, and then when I found like members of my old family, which was part of my backstory, I was Barrett Quillbottom. And
okay. Love that. Love that. Awesome.
So
Oh,
Yeah.
bottom, quiddle bottom.
Yeah.
The only Irish accent I can do is Lucky from the Lucky Charm cereal. That's it.
Yeah, my only qualification is I've been to Ireland twice, and
Oh, nice. Okay.
that's about it. But I have like a terrible Irish accent. But it was a lot of fun for the group when you're playing, when you've played, for however many months with doing a certain thing, and then all of a sudden it was like, hello, yes, yeah, my name's Barrett Quillbottom. No, it's not actually Drake Blackguard.
Hey,
You
that's
know.
great. That's
Oh,
a
thank you,
great
thank you.
one.
It was it
You
was
did
it
break
was.
the
I
tenor of
mean,
your voice.
5 beers in, it was fine for the group.
That's awesome.
Oh, well, Grant, I look, just to turn it back around to Ratatosk. I mean, what do you really want people who are watching this or who see this, who are deciding whether or not to check out you and the rest of the creative team's book? Like, what's your final pitch to folks about Ratatosk? What do you want people to know?
I want people to know. That's a great question. Well, when I've talked about this before with a couple people, we've always gotten to the point that this is a book that's really rooted in some real world grief and rage. This book is about a missing person, and if you follow missing persons cases at all in this country, you know that there are woefully few resources for people that have lost loved ones. I mentioned this a couple times in other interviews, but for example, the Parks Department, the National Parks Department, does not have a database of missing people. They rely on the memory of former employees. So, I mean, there's just this tendency for for people to just forget about missing persons cases. So obviously, if you are involved in that, if someone you have lost has gone missing, it's incredibly frustrating, and there's just so much that needs to change. So one thing that we're really trying to do with this book is convey that reality, that just I don't know, it's a real world horror. So if I definitely think I haven't really seen that in too much other media, really. So
Yeah.
that is something that that people are going to find about Ratatosk that is unique. And then also if Norse mythology interests you like it interests me, hopefully you're going to find something kind of going back to what we were talking about at first, kind of find a different angle on it. Just like elements of that cosmology that are a little underrepresented in fiction. So yeah, I think that would be the thing. And then all that aside, I mean, there's a tier on our Kickstarter right now where you can get a custom sketch by Armando. And if you're not backing the project just for that, I truly don't know what to tell you. They are phenomenal. You can scroll down to the bottom of the page and see them. It's Etrigan and Swamp Thing, who Armando and I are big Etrigan fans. And they just they're so good. And you can get your own, which is really cool because Armando doesn't really do commissions like that. So this is an incredible opportunity if you consider yourself an art collector.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Armando's artwork's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I too am a big fan of Etrigan and
Yeah.
Swamp Thing
Cool.
in particular. Yeah, yeah. I have I have a I have an issue of I think it's the Demon #1 that I was able to get signed by Garth Ennis and John McCrae.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I
That's
just
awesome.
absolutely love it. It was like they did a run. I can't remember what year it started, but they did like a 40 issue run. I don't know if McCrae was on every issue, but yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah, I collect that run.
It's
Yeah.
just great. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, that's where Hitman came from.
Is it?
The DC, I think so. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, okay. I know. I take your word for it. I don't know if I have like more than a few, but I don't know if I've made my way through all of them yet.
Oh, it's late. It's definitely later. It's like into the 20s or 30s that
Oh,
happened.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those types of characters. And
Oh, me too. Yeah.
you know, and I also like when I see them like show up in like when they do like the Justice League, like Unlimited, like the cartoon, and like even now, like
Yeah.
my two kids, like sometimes they'll watch the DC superhero girls,
Okay, cool.
and
Yeah.
and I want to say Etrigan is like he's involved somehow. The gym
Yeah.
teacher, he does something. I know
Okay. Yeah.
Wildcat's the gym teacher, but I love when those like maybe like maybe lesser well known characters like show up like even
Yeah.
still in some of the stuff they're doing today.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Etrigan showed up in the Harley Quinn Valentine's Day special.
oh really? I haven't watched that yet.
And I
Okay.
think it was like John Stamos that did the voice or something. Something like, yeah, exactly. Something I could not believe.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. It's fun.
Well, Grant, I can't thank you enough for joining me for another Yeti Live, and I am very excited about the project. I hope it meets its goal. You're right. I am I said it, you said it. I'm the target audience for this. I think it looks great.
Cool.
I like the idea of the kind of mystery investigation, the difficulty of resources for missing person cases, but also the Norse mythology element to it. And the rest of the creative team, Armando's artwork, Shan, their artwork, Lucas's lettering. Yeah, just a wonderful team. Yeah, very excited for the project. And thank you very much for coming on Yeti Live. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you helping spread the word, and I'm so glad that I don't know that like that everything we're doing is coming across and like making sense to you and exciting you. That is like when you're just getting started out in this kind of thing. That is the hugest compliment, because then it feels like it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like somebody gets it. That is the biggest compliment in the world.
All right. Well, you're welcome. And the hardest thing now is because I haven't backed it yet, but I got to decide what cover I want. So it's going to be tough.
Are you a horror movie fan as well?
I am but I say it that way because like I've kind of fallen off with kids in like the past 10 years, like to watch horror movies. I've only seen a handful. I have like a list that folks have recommended to me that I got to get to, but like I was pretty good up until maybe like 2010. So like the past 12 years of horror movies, I have a lot of catching up to do.
Okay.
But we had another D-Nick7 said comic writers D&D. Think about it. We always threaten to do a one shot, Byron O'Neill and I, and gather some folks. So
oh, please let me.
I've mentioned it to so many people. I feel like I have to.
I'm sure that's okay. I'm sure. But holy crap, I would love to do that.
Yeah, I really want to do it too. So Grant, I'll put your name down on the list.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So hopefully I'll actually get up off of the ground. Oh, D Nick said, great job, Jimmy. Thanks, D Nick 7. And going to check out the Kickstarter. Thanks, Grant. All
Thank
right.
you very much. Appreciate
All
you.
right. That's fantastic. Thank you. All right. Well, Grant, I appreciate you being here. I'm going to go back RATATOSK, and I hope folks will check it out and share the campaign, share this video. You can hear us talking about it. But yeah, for Comic Book Yeti, I'm Jimmy Gasparo. This has been a Yeti Live. And if you like these types of live events and the podcast, let us know and we'll do more of them because, I like talking to people and
You're good at it.
Oh, well, thank you. That's nice of you to say, Grant. All right. So RATATOSK, I'll share this and we'll share the link to the Kickstarter, but you can go RATATOSK, type it in, search it on Kickstarter. You'll find it. It's a project they love, and it's a project we love. All right. Well, thank you very much, Grant. Good night. And I'll see everybody next time.